Have you got a property that is a leasehold property? Now, it doesn't have to be a flat, it can be a house or whatever, and of course, how long is the lease is the key. In the days when I was buying properties, it was always advised to try and get as many 100 years as possible, but I realise it might not be the case now. So what is the ultimate length? That is for existing leaseholds. But, of course, now there are changes afoot. Deputy Prime Minister Angela Rayner is responsible for bringing in these changes. Yes, she's in the headlines again. Here she is speaking with my LBC colleague Lewis Goodall back in December about what the changes would allow for.
I will end the feudal system of the current leasehold system and move to Commonhold. It is a complex situation. The previous government have made matters worse. There are elements of the leasehold bill that they produced that we're trying to take forward, but we will end that by the end of this Parliament, because we do understand that the issues around service charge and leasehold is leaving people held to ransom. So we will deliver that.
Well, let's look at this idea of being held to ransom. Joe Douglas is a campaigner with the organisation Free Leaseholders. Mr. Douglas, in a snappy sentence, what is Free Leaseholders seeking to bring about? Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me on. So Free Leaseholders is a grassroots organisation set up to campaign on that very topic. So we are unique in the world in this country and still persisting with that feudal system that the Secretary of State calls it. We need proper ownership and control of our homes that we buy. We put the majority capital into it. We've got these freeholders that are often offshore organisations that put a minority stake into it and are able to effectively control our finances as a result. That's not right. Other countries don't operate like that, nor should we, and it needs to end ASAP.
Well, it's going to end, I think, for new developments, but what of existing leaseholds, Mr. Douglas?
Exactly, and the volume really is in the existing developments, and we've got upwards of 5 million properties that fall under the leasehold system.
What is the average duration of the lease on those 5 million properties? Do you have that figure to hand, Mr. Douglas?
Don't have that exact figure to hand, but to be quite honest, obviously there's a problem with short leases, but you've got properties that are granted on 999-year terms.
Yes.
If they've got problematic terms in the lease that gives benefits to the third party over the person living there, then that's a problem for the length of that lease. And my property, for example, does have 250 years on it,
right,
but I still would have problems selling it due to issues brought about by the fact that a third party owns that freehold. So it's not necessarily about the length of the term, although that is a problem.
When did you buy your property?
I was a first-time buyer. I used the government's Help to Buy scheme, thought I was doing all the right stuff in 2015. I've had it 10 years now, and there's been building safety issues, but, it's thrown up a whole leasehold system that has thrown up a whole load of issues. I'm now, today, in fact, I'm wearing a tie. I'm at the tribunal for the fourth time. On the same issue. It's
Sorry, what are you going to a tribunal, just to clarify?
It's on the insurance charges that are being levied on my property
that
are completely unreasonable. £1,800 I've been paying a year to insure a one-bed flat, while my neighbours have been paying half that and even less.
Do you mind asking where you live?
Yeah, it's in Hendon, North
You're in
London.
North London, okay.
Yeah.
Now, for listeners who, many of people, of course, can't afford to buy a property, it's worth noting that, Mr. Douglas, they'll say, well, hang on, this bloke must have known he was buying a leasehold 10 years ago when he bought a leasehold. What would you say, those who are not familiar with property purchase, what would you say to them?
Well, yeah, I mean, of course, and I was really proud and pleased to move in and obviously thought I was doing the right thing at the time. And it is great. And there's benefits to it. However, you've really got to be careful in the way these things are set up, because the month after I moved in, the developer, under current law, and this was completely legal apparently, not sure how, and I'm not sure how this, we operate in this country as a result of this, but was able to sell that freehold as a financial asset onto a third party without me being able to purchase that freehold effectively. There were barriers put in my way to doing that, and it's just not. They're not set up in the interest of the people buying the properties. That's the problem, because the developers ultimately are looking at how they can make money off the system.
But again, it was that you didn't have to buy a leasehold. You could have bought freehold, some would say.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. So I didn't know obviously about the leasehold issues at the time. I've come to learn about those as through first-hand experience. But the freehold, obviously, a freehold property in London is going to be most likely a house. And as a first-time buyer, people are funneled into these Help to Buy schemes and things like that. They're not houses that you're going around buying. And actually, there's some houses that somehow are also leasehold, which really doesn't make sense.
Lastly, what should the government be looking at for folks such as yourself with 240 years to go on a lease? What do you think needs to be done?
The government needs to bring in ASAP, and I understand the minister absolutely. It's a complex issue. They need to get it right, but there is risk in delaying this as well because we are on the front line dealing with this. Said I'm at tribunal today. I'm having to take time off work to go and do this. Hundreds and hundreds of hours in preparation. The government need to bring in the Commonhold reform bill in the next session of Parliament, and they need to get on with delivering this. And they need to look at other countries and how they sort this system out. Australia got rid of it in the 60s. We don't need it here. We need to have ownership and control of our properties when we buy them.
Mr. Douglas, thank you for your time this morning, particularly as you're obviously preparing for your tribunal. You're a campaigner with the organisation Free Leaseholders. Calls coming in on that.